Hello everyone, and welcome to Noodle Journey, your destination for detailed and informative reviews of the instant noodle universe. And yes, you read the intro correctly. Today I am trying a variety of Mike's Mighty Good Ramen, this time their Vegetarian Kimchi Ramen Soup. Before we get started, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these in-depth reviews. It's 2024 now, and I figured it was high time to revisit my old nemesis Mike to see if my opinions have changed. Regular viewers know that I take a swipe at Mike every once in a while, mainly because I have problems with Mike's Mighty Good Ramen's portion to price ratio, the inconvenience of their cooking process, and the quality of their noodles, which aren't nearly as exciting as their packaging and social media would suggest. But I did kind of like the flavor of the fried garlic chicken and the spicy miso soup that they make for Trader Joe's, putting aside the weird noodles and the portions. At the urging of one of my friends, I am going to dip my toes back into Mike's pool and try a few more of their flavors, and the first one on the docket is this one, Vegetarian Kimchi. Why? Because I love kimchi, and this one is supposed to be pretty good according to the internet. And I know there's probably those of you out there who want instant noodles, but Mike's is the only thing at your grocery store that isn't pure junk. Every once in a while, someone on social media asks about Mike, and so it's nice to have another review on the books that I can point to. You can find these in grocery stores nationwide. They cost upwards of $3, sometimes even $4, depending on if they're on sale or where you live. And as you can see, this is a tiny little pack for that price, and that is one of my big problems with Mike's, but we'll get into that with the review. I already said my piece on Mike's as a company way back in episode 3, so check that out if you want to hear me ranting and taking some more cheap shots. So let's just get to what's inside this pack and get this cooking without any further delay. The sodium in this is pretty low, like other Mike's products, at 1100 milligrams or 48% of your daily allowance. And yes, for everybody on Facebook who complains that 48% is too high, you have clearly not been eating instant noodles for very long. Now, despite the packaging saying vegetarian kimchi, based on these ingredients, this actually appears to be vegan kimchi, if that's your jam. Just double check these to make sure that I didn't miss something if you are vegan. But that is an important point, because real kimchi often uses seafood paste for flavor. So this doesn't contain seafood at all. So anyway, let me open this up. So as you can see, we have the same sad little jagged rock of Mike's air-dried noodles. We've got a powder packet and a seasoning oil. Now the ingredients in these packets are pretty simple. Miso, chili pepper, garlic, soy, kombu, and green onion. Now it seems pretty basic. There's no actual kimchi flakes listed, but these are some flavors that would go into making real kimchi, and I like everything else. So I kind of am cautiously optimistic about this. Let's get cooking. All right, and here we go. These noodles cook for 3 minutes. Yes, they're still pretty clumpy, but you'll see that when I stir it. So now we're going to put in the powder and the oil. Doesn't really smell like much. So just so everybody knows, because I think this comes up a lot, this oil doesn't actually smell like anything. It's a completely neutral sunflower oil whose only purpose is to give the broth an oily texture. There's no flavor in here at all. It's one of the ways that Mike's cheats when they talk about having an insanely rich broth. Alright, so it's all stirred up. Doesn't smell like a whole lot. A very mildly sour aroma. You got a couple of very tiny little bits of green onion in here that are almost impossible to see. And a decently oily finish on top. And even though that oil doesn't taste like anything, like I was saying, you know, it gives it a little more body. That's nice. Let's dig in and see what we've got here. Alright, I already knew what to expect from the noodles. They're those same odd middle-of-the-road noodles that I've reviewed before, and I give them a 4 out of 10. That undercooked spaghetti texture is always going to be a sticking point for me for Mike's products. I know it has some fans, and I also know a lot of people hate them even more than I do. So, yeah, middle of the road. But now the broth and the spice. It's definitely a little hot, but nothing like some of the stuff I've been reviewing. If you can handle something like Tabasco or Frank's Red Hot or Hot Ones Classic, you know, something on the really mild end of a hot sauce, then you can handle the intensity of this broth. It shouldn't bother you too much if you're looking for something that doesn't burn you. And it's also not nearly as spicy as most of the jarred kimchi that you would buy in your local grocery store. I think it kind of hits about the same way as the Mike's Spicy Miso from Trader Joe's. It might even be the same formulation of chili pepper. So, yeah, I'm comfortable calling this a 2.5 out of 10 on the spice scale. And so the broth. You know, I have to give Mike a little bit of credit. The broth is pretty good, despite being in desperate need of salt. It does have a surprising amount of depth in the other flavors. The chili pepper and the garlic are pretty good here. There's a nice sour vibe through it, like you'd get with a fermented product like kimchi. I can taste the kombu, it's a nice earthiness. And then there's a little bit of sweetness in here, bringing everything together. I don't miss the salt as much as I do in other varieties, because the rest of the spices and flavors in here are pretty good. But what I will say is this doesn't really taste like kimchi. It's kind of more of a generic hot and sour soup, much closer to a Chinese takeout hot and sour, rather than a Korean kimchi soup. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but yeah, this is kind of good, despite my feelings on the portion size and the noodle quality. Better noodles, or more of them, or even some kimchi flakes and some salt, would compel me to give this like a solid 7 or 7.5 out of 10. But taking into consideration the product as is, the strange noodle texture, the portion, the price, I can't give this more than a 6 out of 10. So yeah, it's better than average flavor-wise, so I would actually softly recommend this Mike's product. You will need to get past the noodle texture, or maybe you're already cool with it, I don't know. And you do have to know this is basically a snack size and not a filling portion on its own. And of course, you're probably going to want to add salt or MSG unless you're trying to stick with a low-sodium diet. But those are all my usual gripes with Mike. So other than those, I think this is actually good. Not great, good. So if you like hot and sour soup, buy this on sale, see what you think. Good job, Mike, I'm kind of impressed. Now, all that being said, I do have a couple more Mike's products on my shelf that I'm going to get to eventually. Maybe sooner rather than later, now that I know that this is all right. And so hopefully those reviews go better than that stupid chicken cup on my bottom 5 list. And this soup gives me hope that they might. So have you tried any of Mike's other flavors? Is this the best one? Should I maybe just stop now? Or should I expect something better to come along? Let me know in the comments. And as always, please like and subscribe so we can continue on this noodle journey together.